Today we're going to level up your composition game by learning all about the rule of thirds. Welcome back, thanks for tuning in. We're going to talk today about a simple rule that is an effective rule that can help level up your photography, your videography, cinematography, or just any sort of visual arts. So this applies to art, creating scenes in the Unreal Engine, all kinds of visual mediums. This is the rule of thirds. Now, if you've not heard about the rule of thirds before, it originated in kind of photography teaching, and it is basically turning your screen into a grid with 9 squares on it. The common theory is that you align your subject within where the corners align on the grid on your screen. A lot of digital cameras and monitors these days will have overlays that you can apply onto your camera so you can use the rule of thirds really easily. If you look into your settings for something like your grid display, it'll be on there. Now, the reasoning is it's more pleasing to the eye to have something within that rule of thirds. Within videography, I use it a lot for interview shots. So you'll notice a lot of the time on interview shots, people are sat maybe like this. So I'm directly on the grid there, and I've got here, this is called nose room. I'll do a whole other video about interviews and interview setups. But ideally, I'm filling the corner line of this frame here. You can see the corner bits. And then I've got this space here called nose room, which gives space for the viewer to kind of receive the information. If I was over here, then it feels a bit strange because I'm facing the wrong way and there's all this space over here. But again, I'm getting into the weeds about interviews. But if I turn here and I'm talking to the presenter off camera there, then I'm well within the rule of thirds, and I've got this nice kind of shape here to my face, meeting those corners, and there's nose room over here for all that. It can feel counterintuitive sometimes because a lot of the times you see something nice and you take a photo of it straight on. Even this video right now, despite the background behind me kind of fitting into that rule of thirds with the corners, I'm facing you, I'm dead center, and I'm firing your information straight down the camera. That's slightly different because with YouTube, I want to make you feel like we're in the room together and I'm talking directly to you. So I'm sat centrally across from you, like we're having a coffee or something like that. If I was sat across at an angle while we were talking, you'd think I was a bit weird. So you take up effectively a third of the frame with the thing that you're interested in. How that works, it gives the scenery room to breathe. So say you take a photo of a nice tree with slightly on the right hand side, so you've got the rule of thirds, and it leaves all this gorgeous space here to capture the skyline, so birds flying by, something like that. And our brains just really like that form of composition. It probably fits a bit more naturally to how we view the world. We want to understand that 3D space more, and by hitting the rule of thirds and landing in those corners, you give the perceiver, the audience, the person looking at your photography or videography or whatever it is, a bit more depth and a bit more feel to look at the opening space. This works really well for establishing shots in videography. So you might have a straight pan down of an office building where somebody works, or you might do it off to the edge because you get more depth of field, you get more field of view, you get a bigger sense of being there and understanding the space that the camera is trying to capture, instead of like a front on image can almost feel flat sometimes, like you're literally just taking a photo on your phone, whereas a photo or a video or a piece of art that follows that rule of thirds in the composition mode allows the viewer to understand the visuals a bit more and take in more of the scenery, and therefore get more feeling about what the artist behind the image is trying to convey. So that's the rule of thirds. It's literally just a grid. If you've got a whiteboard marker, if your camera doesn't have marker displays and options, you could draw it on some piece of plastic and stick it to the monitor that you're looking at to make sure it follows it. Over time, your eye will become more trained to the rule of thirds, and you'll kind of instinctively follow it and look at shots and kind of move up to the angle and pull it to one side. But for interviews, I definitely recommend following that rule of thirds. It does get broken all the time. On Formula One Drive to Survive, you'll see the drivers in the interview scenario sit down kind of in front of the camera. Hi, I'm Kimi Antonelli, or whoever the racing driver is. And it's a very dead on frame, but it's actually not like a super close-up of them. You can see like a bit of light and a bit of the background to make you feel like you're in there. So they're kind of doing that thing where they bring you into the frame. But you'll notice that on emotional moments, they'll cut to another angle, which is slightly off center and does follow that rule of thirds. And you'll see that composition in the videos and in the interview setup. So they'll kind of have the introduction, pull you into the room, kind of follow the rule of thirds using the backdrop, because there'll be lights and stuff kind of placed in the corner or whatever, and microphones and stuff like that. But then when they're really getting into the meat of it and into the important things, they'll either crop in or they'll go to the angle, which will emphasize that rule of thirds and really pull you into that emotional feeling of the scene about whatever it is that the driver or the interviewee is talking about. Like all rules, it can be broken. I once messaged quite a very famous cinematographer. He did a load of interviews that, like when I said they were like kind of like off and facing like that, and they were like super cropped in and facing that way, and it just, for me, it felt really off. So I messaged him saying kind of like, why did you do that? And he didn't reply. If you have full control of a project and you get final cut on it, then go for it, do that, break the rules, have fun with it, mess around with your composition. If you are paid by a big corporate company to come and be a videographer for the day and shoot some interviews, you want to look as professional as possible. So follow that rule of thirds, put them off to the side, give them some nose room. Top tip, if I was the presenter, I'd be sat there so that their eye line comes straight to me and they avoid looking directly at the camera while they're kind of off. Feels more like a natural conversation in an interview setting. So you say, hi John, well actually today we are promoting our new generators that blah, 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 blah. And you've got this nose room here, you're following the rule of thirds, and it feels like a much more professional setup than putting a camera directly in front of someone and going, right John, tell me all about the new power grid that you're installing. And they go, I'm talking to the camera and I've forgotten all my words. And hi, I'm John, and I don't know what to do. It's a twofold thing. It makes your composition look much, much better. It also relaxes the interviewee because they just feel like they're having a conversation with you, and therefore they can talk at length about what it is they talk about day to day. You find that as soon as you put even the most confident people in front of cameras, they struggle sometimes and will jumble up the words and struggle to get the words out, even though it might be about the thing that they talk about all day and all night on Zoom calls and in meetings and stuff like that. As soon as you put a camera on them, they just fall apart. That's the rule of thirds. There's not an awful lot to talk about except to just begin to apply it to all of your compositions. Have a go, have a mess around, break the rules, follow the rules, go back, look at your art, look at your photos, and see what you come up with and see what you think. But 9 times out of 10, it should make for better composition and overall better art, whether it's photography or videography or painting, whatever your medium is. Take a look at it, try and understand it, try and apply it to your work and see what comes out. Thank you very much for watching.